In the psyche of many modern men, the poor Eternus, the eternal child, seems charming, creative, sensitive, and visionary. But behind that lightness, there is a persistent refusal to mature, a constant flight from responsibility, an unconscious resistance to the inevitable pain of growth. And this doesn't just affect the person living under this pattern, it also affects everyone who tries to love them. This video is a mirror, a call to truth, not an attack, but a unique opportunity to see clearly what is hidden. Because while the eternal child dominates, real life keeps passing, and time doesn't wait. If this topic moves you, stay until the end. It may hurt, but it can also set you free. The poor Eternus is not just a personality type, it's a profound archetype, a psychic force operating in the unconscious of thousands of men, often mistaken for charisma, spontaneity, or a free spirit. But behind that luminous appearance, there's something much more serious, an almost instinctive refusal to grow. Carl Jung observed this pattern in various patients and myths throughout history. The pure presents himself as one who refuses to abandon the paradise of childhood, the psychic womb of the mother where everything is taken care of, protected, and resolved. He lives in the shadow of the promise of a glorious tomorrow that never arrives. He is the eternal son of the gods, the chosen one, the special one. But in practice, he never takes charge of his own life. You've seen it up close. Men who jump from job to job, always seeking something more meaningful, who start projects with enthusiasm but abandon them at the first obstacle, who fall in love intensely but disappear as soon as the relationship demands maturity, who talk about spirituality, self-knowledge, and freedom but can't pay a bill on time or keep a commitment for more than a few months. And it's not for lack of intelligence or talent. The poor is often brilliant, sensitive, full of potential. He has a vivid connection to creativity, inspiration, and imagination. But precisely because of this, he lives in the realm of ideas and escapes the weight of reality. He wants to fly without building wings. He wants love without commitment, success without effort, the rewards of adult life without paying the price of maturity. And when the world doesn't deliver, he rebels, blames the system, blames his parents, blames life, but never himself. Jung said that the poor Eternus suffers from a disconnection with time. He's always in a not now, always waiting for something to happen first. The right idea, the right woman, the right stage. He lives in the when, never in the today. And because of this, he doesn't live. He merely survives, fueled by dreams that become burdens. But there's another side to this story because, despite being immature, the poor also carries a force that cannot be dismissed. It's the source of inner youth, creative imagination, and the ability to reinvent life. The problem isn't the child that exists within the man, it's when that child takes control of his existence. And that's exactly what we need to understand next. When the eternal child's brilliance begins to darken and the shadow takes over. Now we'll talk about the dark side of the man-child and how it silently destroys everything around him. If this content is resonating with you, click the subscribe button and join the channel. Thank you for your support. There's something magnetic about a man dominated by the poor Eternus archetype. He's light, spontaneous. He speaks like a poet, dreams like a visionary, and lives as if he's outside of time. He doesn't follow rules, doesn't accept labels, doesn't cling to anything. And for many, that's fascinating. He seems free. And who doesn't desire freedom in a world suffocated by obligations, commitments, and empty routines? But here's the trap, that freedom is an illusion, a carefully crafted disguise to hide what he fears most: reality. The poor Eternus isn't free, he's a fugitive. He flees from pain, failure, rejection, frustration, and the passage of time. He escapes the weight of being responsible for his own life. And with every choice he avoids, every decision he postpones, every responsibility he delegates, he deepens his prison disguised as autonomy. You've seen this up close. He says he doesn't want a conventional job because he was born for something greater. But the truth is, he's terrified of routine, hierarchy, and commitment. He says he doesn't want to be tied to anyone, that relationships are prisons. But in reality, he's mortally afraid of giving himself of being truly seen, of being held accountable. He says he hates rules, but deep down, he simply doesn't know how to deal with limits. That freedom he sells to others is actually an infantile refusal to confront the harshness of life. He wants to be eternally light, immaculate, and to do so he needs to stay in constant motion, like a balloon adrift in the wind. But time doesn't wait, and the real world, sooner or later, demands a price. Carl Jung said that the poor eternus lives in suspension, as if he's always floating between heaven and earth. He doesn't want to descend, to take root, to deal with the concrete, but without roots, nothing grows. Without effort, nothing flourishes. And without pain, there's no transformation. True freedom isn't the absence of limits. It's the ability to consciously choose what deserves your commitment. But the poor doesn't choose. He escapes. And in that escape, he not only sabotages his own life, but gradually destroys the people who try to love him. And that's what we'll explore now. The dark side of the puer aeternus, when the promise turns into destruction. Let's dive into the shadow this archetype carries and understand how it corrodes everything around it. At first, everything seems charming. The puer aeternus shines with an energy that attracts, inspires, and envelops. He's passionate, enthusiastic, unpredictable. But over time, that shine begins to fade. What was lightness turns into absence. What was sensitivity turns into instability. And what seemed like freedom reveals itself as flight. This is when the shadow of the puer aeternus begins to show. The man-child's shadow is treacherous. It manifests in small daily sabotages. He forgets commitments, misses deadlines, becomes financially disorganized, changes his mind abruptly, breaks promises. But all of this is wrapped in a poetic narrative. I'm not ready. I don't want to force myself. I need time. The truth, however, is harsher. He's afraid to grow, to make mistakes, to be judged, to be ordinary. So unconsciously, he sabotages everything that demands maturity. This self-sabotage affects everyone around him. Romantic partners live with the anguish of loving a man who seems incredible in essence, but absent in practice. He says he loves but disappears. He says he wants a future, but never takes steps to build it. Family members grow frustrated watching him waste talent, intelligence, and opportunities. Friends tire of supporting someone stuck in the cycle of almost, and behind it all is a suffocating feeling. He seems incapable of moving forward, trapped in eternal emotional adolescence. And as with any archetype, the shadow of the puer aeternus feeds on the unconscious. He doesn't realize he's destroying himself. And worse, he believes others are the problem. He accuses the world of being boring, rigid, controlling. He sees those who have matured as traitors to freedom. And so, he isolates himself more and more, believing he's being true to his essence when, in reality, he's a slave to fear. Jung said that we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The shadow of the puer aeternus must not be denied but confronted. The problem isn't that he carries a child within him. It's when that child becomes a tyrant, sabotaging the chance to live a full life in the real world. And that sabotage has deep roots because the eternal child is rarely alone. Behind him, there's almost always a silent presence that fuels his behavior and perpetuates his imprisonment. The symbolic mother. In the next part, we'll reveal the role of this hidden dynamic, how the psychic dependence on the eternal mother keeps the pure infantilized, and why breaking that bond is the only way out. No eternal child emerges from nothing. Behind almost every man who refuses to grow, there's a silent figure, sometimes loving, sometimes suffocating, that protects him from the world, but also prevents him from facing it. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, this figure is called the archetype of the mother. And when her presence becomes excessive, she transforms into the devouring great mother, who, instead of giving life, imprisons. This mother can be literal, a truly overprotective mother who did everything for her son, who never let him make mistakes, who always cushioned his falls, but who unconsciously prevented him from developing autonomy. Or she can be symbolic, a partner who takes on the role of caretaker, a grandmother, a feminine figure who protects, nurtures, and shelters, and unconsciously demands eternal loyalty in return. The eternal child then becomes a man who seeks in the feminine world not a partner, but a substitute for the mother. Someone who understands him without demanding, accepts him without confronting, supports him without limits. This symbiotic relationship is comfortable, but deeply destructive because it prevents confrontation with the world. As long as he's being taken care of, he doesn't need to act, decide, or grow. He remains in a state of eternal emotional infancy, waiting for the women around him to resolve what he refuses to face, the call of adult life. And the symbolic mother is often trapped in this game too. She believes she's helping, loving, but in reality, she's feeding a cycle of psychic dependence that drains the vitality of both. Jung was emphatic. The greatest tragedy is when the mother refuses to let the child be born psychologically. This means that, even as the body ages, the psyche remains immature, infantile, seeking comfort instead of building foundations. This dynamic becomes even more serious when the eternal child enters relationships. He falls in love quickly, idealizes his partner, places unrealistic expectations on her, as if she should resolve all the internal voids he refuses to acknowledge. But as soon as the relationship demands depth, commitment, or responsibility, he flees, distances himself, sabotages, or worse, blames the other person. Because deep down, he never wanted a partner. He wanted a mother disguised as a lover. Breaking this dynamic requires pain, separation, cutting the psychic cord. But it's that rupture that initiates the true process of individuation. Growing hurts, but not growing hurts more. And that's exactly what we'll talk about now. The path to maturity and the inevitable price paid for leaving behind psychic infancy. It's time to analyze the transformation process. How the eternal child can finally stop running and start building his own internal structure. If what you're hearing is resonating, you'll find real value in my ebook, Beyond the Shadow. It breaks down Jung's core ideas and gives you tools to understand yourself more deeply. The link is in the pinned comment. There comes a moment in life when the pretense begins to crumble. Unfulfilled dreams weigh heavily. Failed relationships leave scars. Life, once full of open possibilities, begins to narrow. And then the man still living under the eternal child's dominance is forced to look in the mirror and ask, how much longer will I live as if I had all the time in the world? That's the breaking point, the moment when the pain of remaining immature becomes greater than the fear of growing. But those who think maturing is a smooth process are mistaken. Jung spared no words in describing this path. He said that individuation, the process by which a human being truly becomes themselves, is a psychic birth. And like any birth, it's made of pain, blood, and symbolic death. The first step is facing the collapse of the fantasy. It's understanding that life won't wait for you to be ready, that there's no perfect moment, that no one will come to save you. It's recognizing that the real world isn't a hostile place, but the only stage where something true can happen. That growing isn't betraying your essence, but building it. But for that, mourning is needed. Mourning the idealized child, mourning the imagined life, mourning promises that were never fulfilled, and above all, mourning the symbolic mother. Killing the inner child doesn't mean stifling his creativity, lightness, or dreaming soul. It means no longer using him as an excuse to escape life. This allows the child to continue existing, but now under the leadership of the man. Maturity demands construction, structure, consistency. It means saying no when it's easier to escape, committing even when you want freedom, working with focus even when inspiration doesn't come, being present in a relationship even when the idealization has faded. It means trading the ecstasy of the new for the transformative power of continuity. And here lies the secret. When the eternal child is integrated into the adult man, he doesn't disappear. He transforms. He becomes the source of creativity, vision, and intuition, but now channeled by a mature, steady psyche capable of acting in the world. That's the true rebirth, when the eternal child stops fleeing reality and starts building with it. But this process isn't easy, and it doesn't happen on its own. Many men at this point in the journey feel lost, exhausted, unsure of where to start. They know they need to change. They know the era of psychic infancy is over, but they don't know how to take the reins of their own life. And that's exactly why this video continues. Because in the next segment, we'll speak directly to those at this point of transition, those who want to change but don't yet know how. The hour of truth has arrived, and the decision to grow is finally in their hands. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes the urgency of what's been said. Maybe you've seen this pattern in someone close to you. Maybe you've seen it in every word. And there's no shame in that, none. Because all of us, to some degree, carry the temptation to remain children in a world that demands maturity. We've all fled some responsibility, dreamed of shortcuts, and hoped life would offer comfort before we were ready to face it. But the truth is simple and brutal. Life doesn't wait. It demands, requires, tests, and sooner or later you'll be confronted with the choice to remain trapped in the world of promises or finally cross the bridge to the world of realization. And that journey is only possible when you choose to grow. Not when you feel like it, not when everything is perfect, but when you decide with courage that it's time to stop running. Carl Jung said that the person who doesn't confront their own demons will be condemned to meet them in every corner of life. The pure Eternus is one of those demons, one that hides under the guise of freedom, authenticity, or misunderstood genius. But in practice, it corrodes your roots and prevents any solid construction. It won't disappear on its own. You need to face it, recognize it, integrate it, and above all, choose to be bigger than it. Maturity is what's born when you stop waiting for someone to save you and start saving yourself. When you understand that responsibility isn't a prison, but a path to power, when you realize that true freedom isn't doing whatever you want, but having enough internal structure to choose what's necessary, you no longer need to run. You no longer need to wait for the perfect moment or hide behind dreams that never turn into action. The decision to grow doesn't happen all at once, but it begins now. It begins with one step, with the courage to look inward, with the willingness to cut the ties that bind and build something that lasts. If this video has spoken to you, share it. Someone close to you might be trapped in the same cycle without realizing it. And if you want to dive even deeper, stay with us. The next video will reveal another essential key in this individuation process. And remember, true freedom is only born when you choose to take charge of your own life.